WandaVision.
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 Yeah, I saw it pretty recently.
I did not.
Actually,
I saw it last year.
Okay, my experience of seeing it is that I actually went to the Doctor Strange movie quite recently, and so that had Wanda in it. I can't play with my clapper.
Yes.
It had Wanda in it, and the film didn't actually say it, but it did sort of indicate that watching WandaVision would have maybe added to experience. It was not a problem, but I realized that I'd missed something, so I went back and watched WandaVision.
Right, okay.
The reason I hadn't watched WandaVision is because I'd heard some really bad things about it.
Really? Oh.
Yeah, I'm not going to repeat it because I don't think it was warranted.
No.
One thing it was that I did know beforehand, that it was going to be a hark back to certain American shows, and I have to say,
it's kind of nice if you know that beforehand, because I didn't.
I sort of didn't know that, or I'd forgotten that, or just misplaced the fact. But the moment I switched it on and I realized it was going to be I Love Lucy, basically, I was going, oh my god! And I had to switch it off. I had to switch it off. I couldn't get through the first episode. I had to switch it off and go on to the next episode because that
Oh, you
plot,
didn't actually watch the whole thing?
I did not watch the first episode because...
Let me tell you, you have not missed anything.
I know. The thing is, the reason I don't... like these kind of shows is it's a certain comedy of errors that is completely avoidable, and I just hate that kind of plot line. And the I Love Lucy and its contemporaries, they did it so many times, and I was going, oh my god, it's that plot line, just the comedy of errors of the husband phone the wife, and they misunderstood.
I watched it. They've watched it. Yeah. Okay.
So I had to skip that one and then went straight on to the next one because
Did it help the next one?
The next one was actually better because for people who haven't seen it, and this is spoilerish, each episode they go on to a different era in comedies, and they do get a little better.
American television comedies.
American television. So the first one is straight up 50s. The second one is early 60s. The third one is like late 60s, and we're starting.
Something like
and then we run out because then we run into plot. Yeah. But it is better, and they go through it faster because the first time they're showing off, they're showcasing
they're
this.
Only doing that in the first and the second episode, literally. And there's, I think, at the last minute of the second episode, they give an inkling to wait. There's a world out there. There's something not right here with the world here.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the first episode was completely skippable, and it's actually what main beef I have with the entire WandaVision is that it is like it's like 9 episodes. They are of different lengths that I've noticed. The first one is like half an hour, and it later becomes a little longer. So it's like it's about 5 hours of footage, but it's one story.
Yeah.
The entire thing is one story, and if you just cut the fat, cut it down to a 2.5 hour movie, you will have a really good 2.5 hour
really
movie.
Good movie, yeah.
It has just a lot of deletable scenes, basically.
Yes.
Other than that, it is showcasing a bunch of the heroes that wouldn't have had their own movie, maybe. Wanda herself is a side character who came up in in Avengers Age of Ultron. She is a major character in the Marvel universe altogether, but in the movieverse not so much. Mm-hmm. And Vision by I think Paul Bettany. Look it up. Paul Bettany is the actor is sort of accidentally became a a person on screen because he was a voice actor to start with. And so they used him really well in the movies and here, and I think it's wonderful to just see him do another thing. That made me very happy. Watching Wanda do another thing also made me very happy. But it should have been a movie. I think it should have been a movie.
Yeah. I didn't know Wanda at all. Never seen her. I saw a whole bunch of these.
You saw it,
Marvel.
Ultron. You saw it.
I did.
But you probably didn't notice it.
Not at all. No. Is that the one with James Spader?
Yes, that's the one with James Spader.
Well, that's what I noticed.
The James Spader character who was the robot had a couple of minions, and she was one of the minions.
Oh,
but they changed sides. So she's actually pretty powerful.
So I was watching it as like, oh, there's another Marvel TV series. So and it's a short season. That's kind of nice because things that go on forever. There's only so many of them that you want to actually be following. At least I do. But anyway, so I was like, what?
It's definitely
what?
A what.
And most of all, why? Why am I watching this? Why? And it was that I was watching it with my husband who really wanted to see it because I would have done the same. It was like, eek. No. Lucy, I love Lucy. Lucy Ball has done it. She did it very well. She did it way before I was born.
Years and years.
And I'm good with that. And I don't see at all the point of it. I have another beef with it. That was that Perfect Strangers. Sorry, that sounds completely off the wall here, but Perfect Strangers did the same bloody thing in their final season. They were apparently given carte blanche, which don't give comedians carte blanche. I don't think that's a good plan.
Well, it could work out, but it can also not work out.
If they're Robin Williams, I'm willing to go with it. If they're not, as much as I adore Bronson Pinchot and Mark Lynn Baker, please do not, give them a script. But they did a whole of Oliver and Hardy episode, the entire thing. And they did another one. I mean, the whole thing was in black and white, and it was as slow as all the Oliver and Hardys we've ever seen. So this was like, I had to sit through that because I was already in season 8, and I wanted to make it to the end. Because it finally came out on DVD, and I finally was able to watch all the episodes. And then I was like, okay, that was one episode too many. There was also another episode that I don't even know what the show was about, but it was also one of those black and white American shows about people who live in an apartment building, and there's like 2 couples live on separate floors, so there's a lot of climbing up and down the balcony or something like that. And they played that as well, and it was the entire episode. Sigh. So for me, as somebody who's not an American, who did not grow up with all of that, I have seen some of it. That's except for the apartment building people.
But it has no meaning for us.
It doesn't. And it doesn't. The whole thing was, but it was it was the opening 1/2 hour. I don't know how many viewers they lost, but they lost me, they lost you, they lost...
Now, the thing that I just realized that, I just remembered that because I was thinking that. The clue of the WandaVision was that Wanda, as a young girl in Sokovia, which is...
was watching this stuff.
And yes. Sokovia read Eastern Europe for that. And you know what? I am in Europe. I'm not in Eastern Europe, but I am in Europe. Mm-hmm. I do know a little bit about Eastern Europe.
Mm-hmm. And more about her. Well, we're a little older than she is, but
okay,
similar.
She wouldn't have been watching these shows. I'm
sorry. I Love Lucy on European television in the
or
in
DVD boxes, because it was because there is no youth sentiment towards it. It was not here when it was on originally in the 50s. It wasn't on our television because there wasn't much television going on here at all. And in Eastern Europe,
one channel.
If anything...
In Eastern Europe, they would not be showing American television. Hello, you're behind the Iron Curtain.
If anything, in Sokovia, when Wanda was young, they would have been watching 21 Jump Streets, or a show called Tatort, a German show.
Yes.
a bunch of the
German shows.
a whole bunch of German shows showing grown-up people
quite
and
frankly, they would
not
have been
comedies.
They would have been watching Soviet-approved shows.
No, if they were specifically in the plot, they were smuggling in stuff to watch.
Oh, right, okay.
And it would have
Western
been
stuff.
Western stuff of the 1980s, not of the
Knight
1950s. Knight Rider.
Perfect Strangers.
Perfect Strangers.
Yes.
Not I Love Lucy, because there is no I Love Lucy here at all. No. There was a little bit of it, but only for people who had televisions really early, and that was nobody. There is no youth sentiment towards it. There's no youth sentiment towards Brady Bunch or any of the Dick Van Dyke Show. It doesn't exist. No. So it's going, okay. So this is a vessel of American youth sentiment for a generation that is older than probably the Marvel fans, but they have grown up with it because Americans keep repeating stuff. That's another thing. In Europe, no repeats, no reruns.
No.
So new stuff.
Repeats didn't start until commercial television, which was the way into
1990s.
the 90s.
Yeah. So I Love Lucy is out in the cold.
Yeah. Sorry.
We know of her historically. We know of her from these kind of these repeats of these redos
in movies, in other things. To spend an entire half hour on that, I couldn't believe what I was watching. I really couldn't.
I could watch the second one because the first one I couldn't watch because
I sat through it. I sat through the whole
thing.
But
because you had to, because your husband was there. You had no choice. What you do for love. But the second episodes and the episodes that I watched after, I sat through because I was looking at the artfulness of how they did it. So I wasn't looking at the comedy, because the comedy
I was doing that in the first one as well. The problem with the 1950s is they were doing properly 1950s. And 1950s... boring. Guys, it's not palatable anymore. It's really
boring.
That family, that couple that came to visit them, which you probably never saw. That is.
I cut and run real early.
Really, it is so. All in the Family
cringe.
was
all cringe.
Well, All in the Family was color. Sorry, but that does help. And
70s.
It was 70s, and the older couple in there was shown to be the conservative couple. Now the whole thing, that whole town is super conservative, as if that is something to aspire to, because this is of course a conjuring up by Wanda.
It's an ideal world, yes.
So this television show is telling, this WandaVision television show is telling me that what you wish to be living in is the white picket fence world of the 1950s I Love Lucy situation. Yeah, and quite frankly, no thanks.
And the thing
is, it's not female friendly at all.
One of the things this series harks back to is a film called Pleasantville, which you probably have not seen. Tobey Maguire, and I think it's like 2000 and a little bit, 2002 or something like that, or maybe late 90s, something like that, and of a young man who is an American who watches these kind of shows, and Leave It to Beaver, which we haven't seen, is the kind of show we've watched. We haven't even. I know of it.
Bunch, so.
I've seen some of the Brady Bunch, but I've never seen any Leave It to Beaver.
Older.
No, as repeats from this is part of American culture. That's why I've seen some of it. And I saw the movie. There was a movie as well. Anyway, the Pleasantville movie. This kid is an American kid, and he's looking at this perfect world, this black and white 50s world with a perfect mom and a perfect dad, and he lives in a 1990s 2000s world where people are not so perfect.
I've heard about that movie, yes.
And the point of that movie is that if you go through the entire movie, is one of the points is that maybe this 50s world is not so wonderful after all. Yeah. It's a little bit samey, and at the very best, it's a little bit samey. Yeah. But that's the same idea as WandaVision took, or Wanda took, from this idealized world, which you wouldn't have seen because she's Sokovian and not American.
And this is the thing. Okay, so you got this guy in Pleasantville, this young man, and he will have soaked all that up because he was watching American television as a child. And it was all repeats of black and white stuff, which we always hear about in American movies and television, is that, what did you watch last night? Oh, an old black and white movie. Well, that doesn't happen on Dutch television.
Black
and
and
it
white
won't be
with blue.
happening in Sokovia, because everything is at a premium. If you have to smuggle it into the country, that's at a premium. So you're not going to smuggle in all...
You're going to smuggle in
stuff.
Die Hard. You're not going to smuggle in
Miami
I Love
Vice.
Lucy. Miami Vice, Knight Rider. Yeah.
But what this is doing, and I think that's why the both of us are offended, really, by having to sit through the first 2 episodes, is what they're saying is, even in Sokovia, which is basically code for
Romania,
anywhere Eastern Europe, anywhere in Europe, because Europe is of course the UK plus Europe, blah 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 blah. So the UK, we make special allowance for, but Europe is Europe, and we don't agree with that because it's the EU 27. Thank you very much. There's 27 different countries, and that's the EU, and I've got a couple that aren't inside the EU.
But we'll take those as well.
Yeah, so this is Europe. We are Europe, and we are saying, do not tell us that your experience has anything to do with our experience growing up. Because Americans talk a lot about cultural appropriation, and this is kind of like putting culture on top of me and saying, this is what you are supposed to remember, and this is what you're supposed to like. And it's like, I don't want the white picket fence world of I Love Lucy. I don't want to be told to be a housewife and
basically the story,
cook the perfect.
The story would have worked if she hadn't been Sokovian.
Skip the whole first episode.
Well, that also. But if she hadn't been, if Wanda hadn't been Sokovian and she had been an American girl,
even Canadian,
I don't. I'm not going to talk for Canadians.
Well,
I don't know.
I don't know. I apologize to Canadians. I don't know anything. But anybody who thinks that's an American, that's an ideal to live in, great. More power to you. Find your happy place. But no, don't put it on. Don't put it on the EU 27.
Yeah. So that's one thing, and the other thing is that, like I said, I think this could have been done in 2.5 hours and not in 5+ hours.
That was one of the reasons why I was, after I think the 3rd episode, especially. I will finish my sentence. After the 3rd episode, I felt like, okay, this is actually worth finishing. Because my husband wants to watch some stuff. I don't always watch the whole thing with him. It's like, I'll give it the first couple episodes and then I'll just wander off to my own thing, like Game of Thrones. But, it's either your thing or it's not. But it actually became interesting. And it became interesting to me as a woman, as me, myself, not because I'm not a Marvel fan at all. When it was about her struggle with her identity and her struggle with wanting to have a family life, to have a normal life with this man. Yeah, and that suddenly appealed to me as like, yes, of course she wants to protect this home life, and she's doing it in
the stupidest way possible.
Well, yeah, she has these superpowers and she breaks the universe to do it, but that I can totally understand. So it's also about love. It's about wanting a home.
His love as well.
Yeah. And when he
finds out what his reality really is.
Yes, he breaks out of it several times before he actually gets the
gist of it.
The full thing. And it's like, it's really sad to then see him slip back into it, because she basically she blinks her eyes. She does this bewitched thing, I think, in the 2nd or the 3rd episode.
Yeah, but that's also one last power is power of the mind, and that's the thing that they actually did show it in the story. So if you're susceptible to plot at that point, they did say she merged with the Soul Stone. For that's how she had innate power of herself, but the soul merging with the Soul Stone for a forced melt made her power be much stronger.
It really got going after the 3rd episode. So if they had squished the first 3 episodes together into one. Do a scene, boom, now you're in the 3rd episode. Great. You don't have to. there's such a thing as going too fast. Like skipping over time and stuff. They did that definitely in the second Lord of the Rings movie. They were just moving far too fast. But yeah, I think this was too slow. But after that, it was great.
Because this is a miniseries, this is a really weird thing, because Americans don't make miniseries as such in the sense that some in
Traditionally, they did.
Well,
traditionally, now they're doing stuff.
Now they're doing stuff. For them, it's to the Americans. This is a new medium, but to Dutch or Japanese,
British, anything.
we know how to do a miniseries, and I really think that it's quite possible that they had a script for a movie. Realized that they realized that they couldn't do a WandaVision movie. It was just not feasible, and they made it into a miniseries instead, and then did whatever else they wanted to do and stuck that in there. So, but I think that's the wrong way of doing a miniseries.
Yeah.
Because these are not standalone episodes. They try to with the I Love Lucy episode. They try to make a standalone episode, but then the people who don't like I Love Lucy are gone from your viewership.
That's your first episode. Bye.
For your first episode, bye. And it doesn't do anything. You have to when you do a series, when you do a series, a mini series, or any other series, you have to do everything, the complete introduction of characters in the way that you're going to do your series in your first episode, which they didn't do here.
No.
So because they did I Love Lucy in the first episode, and you have to have the specter of what is going to happen later has to start in your first episode, and they didn't know that. I hope they know it now.
Well, no, I think that is because it doesn't work for us. I spoke to a fan when I was just seen 4 episodes, and I was like, what the hell? And she said, I understand what you're saying, but for her it worked. She was riveted from the beginning. This is an American woman. Yeah, she's a fan. she's very invested in the
But she's already invested because she's already invested in Vision and in Wanda. Yeah. People who haven't seen the show should also be able to watch the show and become invested in these people. I felt
that this show fell short of that because there was no in.
And whereas the movie Doctor Strange movie that I saw just after that, which is actually incidentally
this is why she actually had a show.
Yes, yeah. And also if you look at the schedules, they basically filmed the whole thing in sequence, and some of the characters from the WandaVision, especially the little boys, are in the movie.
Oh.
Which was very, very nice. Yeah. But the movie made sure that you didn't have to have seen WandaVision in order to understand the movie. And WandaVision itself didn't do that. You have to have some investment in Vision and in Wanda to be there to watch the movie. So it's it's basically fan service, whereas it's not a standalone thing anymore. And I think that is a problem. And as a movie, you can't do that. And the movie realized that. Any movie who tries to do that, and other movies in other fandoms have tried to be fan service or not give enough of an in for other people. Whichever way you do it, you lose. You lose.
You're not going to get your audience.
You're not going to get your audience, and even if you get your audience the first time, you won't get your audience the second time because they just, have done.
Yeah. So, I do want to say that the acting was very good. The casting was good. I assume some of the casting, especially Wanda and Vision, were already cast.
They were correctly cast.
And there were some other characters in there that probably came out of movies and stuff that were on the outside. I thought everyone did a fantastic job. Also, the cinematography was very good. And that town, by the time you get to the halfway through the show, it's super alive, that town. And there's all this intrigue going on. And that's really the meat of it. So I wouldn't say don't watch it. I'm just going to say, get through those first 2 episodes.
Yeah, and
if it's not your thing. If it is your thing, more power to you, because then you're gonna have lots of fun.
Yeah.
But that's the part that is a bit of a slog.
I think what they did correctly is, because one of the complaints I heard, which I think is not true, is that some of the acting was not good enough. And
I disagree.
I disagree. I think
There's
what they
a lot of good
did,
acting going on.
I think what they did was they let people act to their ability. They got in good actors to do good parts. The little kids are very good, but they let them do little kid stuff and don't over-ask them. And I think that's very important, because
there was nothing weird about the little kids. It was good stuff.
And they had 2 sets of little kids, because they had the little kids and they had a bigger little kids.
Yeah.
And they both were very natural, very unhurried, very there you go, okay, that's... Yeah, they were fine. And Wanda, I think, the actress can be a little bit wooden, but they made use of the fact that she was
because she is kind of like alien in that world anyway. So that I didn't feel she was wooden at all.
She's trying.
Not a problem.
Yeah, they made her play a part where she's trying. She wants to be these people in this role, but once she has it in her hand, she doesn't know quite what to do with it. And same for Vision, because he has no background at all in being normal, so he's sort of holding, this is supposed to be normal, how am I supposed to do that, and that's perfect. That works really very well.
Yeah, he was very good
with the role and with the character.
The woman, the neighbor lady, was very good.
I think she was called Abigail. Agnes. Agnes,
and I did like the birthing scene. So, they don't do that enough in film. Scripted, I mean, literally, it's so good. The one in Alien Nation still stands out as one of the best ever, and Enemy Mine, which is sort of like a similar scenario. It's like, I mean, birthing scenes, come on! Cagney and Lacey, they had a really good one. It's like, we need more of that.
Yes, we do need more of that.
Yes, in a superhero show. Hello.
Yeah.
So,
they did a lot of fun
good
things. It is worth seeing, but don't be upset if you don't get through first episode, because
skip it.
Skip it.
And you'll
skip
be fine.
it. Just look. There's a recap on the next episode of the previous episodes, and you can probably skip the first 2 and get enough out of the recaps if you really want to avoid the whole thing. Once it gets to the color age, it gets a lot better.
Yeah, the story actually gets going. So what is this our opinion, and are we sticking to it?
Yeah.
We are sticking to it. Your mileage may vary, and that's perfectly fine. But it's still
enjoy your WandaVision. WandaVision.